Alaska is a vast state. From the east to the west in Alaska would cover from New York City to Salt Lake City. And yet the population is so sparse. Here in this area in southeast Alaska of Juneau, the only way to really reach these people is by radio. So we have dedicated our time and resources to try to plant an FM radio in every city in the isolated towns in Alaska. Welcome to KQQJ FM radio station in Juneau, Alaska. And I want to introduce you to Pastor Steve Evenson and his wife Judy.
It was about 10 years ago that we came to Alaska to visit. We rode our motorcycle here. This was the last state we had to visit, and we're all about adventure. That's why we loved the motorcycle. We came up here and thought, wow, wouldn't it be neat to live up here? Never realizing that several years later we'd have an opportunity to do so. We did get that opportunity when Ken Crawford called us to come up to Juneau, Sitka, to visit this place. Judy, when we got here, what did we find?
Well, we came in November and the weather was outrageous. I mean, it was just crazy. There was slush everywhere and it was raining and snowing and the wind was blowing gale force winds.
Now, another interesting thing about that trip was that the power went out, we had gale force winds. The flight we were supposed to get on to go over to Sitka to visit the other church was canceled because they had ice on the wings and they ran out of de-icer. We thought, what are we going to do? The next day we hopped on the ferry and got over there. We didn't know how it was all going to unfold, but in my devotional life when we were in Louisiana, I was complaining to God in my prayer life about the heat and the humidity. I grew up in northern Minnesota, and so I was looking forward to, a little less heat, a little less humidity. Didn't realize that God was going to really send me way north, all the way here to Juneau, Alaska.
When we came to Juneau, Alaska, a little over 2 years ago, the church had been raising funds for a radio station for quite some time. And we had seen the benefits in a previous district where we had a radio station, and we realized that we needed to get this happening. So God blessed, and the funds were raised, and it's been quite a process. Our tower was to be constructed on top of a hill here in Juneau, and we needed to get a lot of concrete to the top of that hill. And so we solicited the help of the members, and I wish you could have seen some of the petite little women from our church that loaded up concrete in their backpacks and headed up the top of this mountain. And it's not an easy climb, even in good weather. And we had a wonderful day. We had people from other churches in town actually came out and helped us get that concrete up to the top. We had people up there digging out stumps and putting together the concrete forms that we needed to pour that concrete. And now we have a tower up, and we have a radio station on the air. And we just trust that God's going to use this to be a real blessing to the city of Juneau.
We've been able to utilize Radio 74 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And in addition to that, we've programmed some of our own messages along with some of our own music into the local mix to make it an actual local station. Now, this can happen all over Alaska for $1,000 a station. Up in the Arctic, it's possible to do that. What a blessing it is to have kids involved with the school, and they've even made some of the spots for the radio station. What a blessing it is that God has allowed us to have here in Juneau a radio station that uplifts God 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. It's not like work. When you're working for God, it's fun. It is such a blessing to be working hand in hand with God, and when you can see people's lives change, there is nothing better than that. When you're studying with someone, you're working with them, showing Bible truths, and you begin to see them get excited about finding out what the pages in the Bible have to say. You begin to get excited because you're starting to see their light come on inside, and they're putting it all together.
As we have learned more about the Native culture, I find that Steve is able to introduce that into lessons that he's teaching with the young people. I think we should let Clint and Annie tell about what's going on.
I think that's a great idea.
I'm Clint, and this is Annie, and this is Daisy, and actually Annie and I are the coordinators for the Discover Bible School here in Juneau. And right now we're actually doing a Bible study with Daisy. She's actually part of the youth here.
Once a month, the youth group has the church service, and it was so awesome to find that they were leading out in a youth-driven, youth-led Bible study. And when Discover Bible School came along, we thought, wow, here's some young people. Let's give them the opportunity. Let's help them. Let's equip them. Let's train them to where they can be involved in ministry, and let's see what they can do with it.
One Sabbath, Pastor Steve came to our church and he asked where God is in our totem pole.
There is quite a culture with the totem poles. There are totem poles for the different tribes, and they each tell a story.
I didn't say anything, but I wanted to say was God was nowhere in my totem pole. I didn't really want to study about him. Like, I was more into, the clubs, the smoking and stuff. And, now it's like I'm actually giving it up. I'm saying no to people who ask me if I want to go out. I would read more about God. I would read it to my 9-year-old month baby, Bryden. I'd read the Bible to him, or I would sing Christian songs to him instead of just hip hop and rap. So that's my story.
Annie and I were actually the youngest ones to go to the Bible training in Anchorage.
For me, it was a big leap of faith because I don't know anything about running a Bible school. I barely studied my Bible at that time. But I was like, oh, but I have nothing to lose.
There's one guy that I was talking to, just about God, and he was telling me, yeah, I used to read the Bible, and I read Revelation like 7 times. I'm like, oh, that's so awesome. And in my head, I was like, oh man, I haven't even read the whole Bible. But just, it was cool talking to him, and at the end, he's like, oh, thanks for talking to me. A lot of people aren't as nice as you. And when he said that, it made me realize, like, wow, it is important how we act, especially to people who aren't Christian or Adventist, but to just reflect God in everything. And I think that has opened a part of my life, especially just talking to the folks that I meet, just walking to work or walking back to my car.
I'm so excited to be part of Discover Bible School, just to share God's love. Every time we get a letter from the people we've been corresponding with, it's so exciting. Or an email notifying us, oh, you have a new student. It's like, yay! And I'm just so excited for it to grow.
Yeah.
And God is so good, and I know that DBS will prosper as long as God's always a part of it, and just can't forget that this is why we're doing it. It's for Him. It's not always easy going to school and going to work and doing, being in charge of DBS, but through prayer and just trusting and having faith with God, it's just, life has been so much easier. Mm-hmm. And it's been great just working with Clint and the youth, and I see how much we're growing, and it's just a beautiful thing. And I think we're all excited.
Yeah.
We're all excited. Our lives are changing, and I know it's only for the good.
It makes me understand who God really is. And so that's a big thing in my life right now, just studying more about Him and wanting to share His words and be baptized.
So Discover Bible School has changed all 3 of our lives, and I believe we're still growing, and just for us just to be where we're at now, it's just amazing how God can work in all of us, and just with a willing heart that He can just take and transform you, like what it says in Romans, I forget the verse, but 12:2. Thanks, Annie. But it's just beautiful. And so
check out Discover Bible School as a tool to share with your community.
And the big secret to the whole thing is giving up on what your desires are and allowing God to work in your life for His benefit, for His glory. And that's what we're here for. We're here to glorify God in what we say, what we do, and how we carry ourselves, so that one day, very soon, Jesus, we can see coming in the clouds of glory. And as you can see right here, what a better place to see Jesus come than in a beautiful place like this. Only this is nothing compared to what heaven's going to be.
I've heard it said that God doesn't care about our ability, He cares about our availability.
Amen.
And if you make yourself available to God, He will use you. We pastor in Juneau and Sitka, and both areas are landlocked. So we take the ferry every couple of weeks from Juneau to Sitka and stay there a couple weeks and minister, and then turn around and take the ferry back. And so we move every 2 weeks, but we love it.
You just can't drive anywhere because there's only so many miles of road. Sitka's 15 miles of road, and here there's about 50 miles of road. And the Lord is really blessed in our ministry here. And if you want adventure, this is the place.
There are many well-maintained trails in Juneau, and you'll love hiking if you brought your hiking shoes. And you know what? My favorite, actually, is the whale watching. Oh, these wonderful creatures God created, and you can get up close. You can smell their breath. It's a wonderful adventure.